I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Before we jump right in, we have some very exciting news. We're joined by our student select person from Baypath, Izzy Tenacia. Izzy, if you would, give us a little intro. David, can you give her your mic for a moment, please? Nope, Drew normally takes care of us, but don't worry.
Hello, I'm Izzy Tenacia. I'm a senior at Baypath. I'm in the marketing shop. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Izzy. We're looking forward to not only your student select person's report, but also to anything that you have an opinion on for the rest of the board. Feel free, because we always want to hear, what the next generation believes, because that actually helps us guide policy for, honestly, a lot of decisions we're making are going to impact you and, believe it or not, your kids one day. So again, looking forward to the partnership, and we'll have more exciting news about a Shepherd Hill representative in a little bit as well.
I'll leave the mic right here. Feel free to share if you want to say anything. If you want to just take it away, because I'm talking
Yeah, Izzy,
too much,
anything that you can do to take it away,
Yeah, just
that would be more.
kick him to the table
I
if
make
necessary.
a motion, we give.
Yeah, there's also a
First dibs on
that
the
that
microphone.
occasionally if you just press it when he's speaking.
You won't be the first person to go like this.
All right, first up for our agenda, we are discussing the minutes of the special meeting on September 21st. Discussion or anything else? Perhaps a motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
All right, I'm gonna say Steve on the motion, Basha on the second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're looking at 401. Minutes of the regular meeting of September 28th.
I make a motion to accept them.
Thank you, Benson. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Singer. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. We are good to go. Next up, community relations. Select person Zarowski, if you would.
DPW leaf dump open, 100 Flint Road, Charlton, Mass. Charlton's leaf waste dump is now open every Saturday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. starting October 30th to November 20th. Only yard waste, including leaves, grass clippings, shrub tree trimmings less than 3 inch in diameter and less than 3 feet long, and non-wood organic garden waste are permitted. Trick or treat Sunday, October 31st between 5 and 7:30, and the real estate and personal property bills for fiscal year 2022 second quarter are due on November 1st.
Thank you, Basha. There's also been some questions around the November 15th special town meeting and whether it's an election or something else. I really want to emphasize this is a special town meeting. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at Charlton Middle School. It is not a ballot. It's our usual town meeting. So if you have questions, let the town clerk know around, I believe you have to be registered by November 5th to attend. But again, this is not an election. It's not a ballot. This is a special town meeting. So thank you for that. So that's another nice way of saying there are no absentee ballots. You actually have to show up. Okay. Any other community relations announcements from the board? Hearing none. Community forum. Everybody? Pete, John? All right. First daily order of business. Appointments, resignations. Mr. Goals.
Right. Attached, you'll find a request from Police Chief Dowd asking the board to appoint Jose Aponte as per diem dispatcher. I recommend the board make the appointment.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just a question. I assume, because there's nothing on his resume about training for dispatcher or certification. I assume they are.
Yeah, the second page on here is not. There is actually a dispatcher with Westcom.
Okay. Good question. Let's
I
see.
think, yeah, online, when I saw it, I saw that on the resume. Didn't we just appoint a dispatcher? So this is
This
second.
is per diem, so
Per
it's
diem.
only as needed.
Oh,
Yeah, for those at home, per diem, basically for all intents and purposes, anytime that someone calls out or we need something special, Chief Dowd actually has a pool, for lack of a better word, of people that he calls. That's what this will be. Any other questions? Could I entertain a motion, please?
Make motion that we approve Chief Dowd's request.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ridlack. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Welcome to the show. Scheduled appointments? I don't believe we have any. Although exciting news, we have under new business our re-precincting map, which is a horrible word to say.
So
Let me try.
Town Clerk Kieran McCoy has informed us that we are bound by state law to adjust some of our precincts to have them remain within the target population. The numbers used are from the federal 2020 census. We were able to move the fewest people possible and remain within our variance percentage. We will be moving approximately 54 residents, not just voters, from precinct 3 to precinct 4. That's on the map that's attached. All residents and voters will be notified by mail in December, between December and January of the changes. The changes don't take effect until December 31st, 2021. The board is asked to vote to accept the 2020 re-precincting plan for the town of Charlton as presented by the town clerk.
Questions from the board?
I'd make a motion to accept.
I second it, we don't have a choice.
Let's see how much we choose.
Well, yeah, there's really not a choice, and all that really means is so people at home, you're still gonna go vote in the same place. You're just gonna be in a different line. So 64 people will be in a different
50,
line.
54.
54.
Andrew, question to you: is that would those residents change their state rep from
Yes.
That's changed
Peter
anyway.
to? Yes, I'm thinking about as of today. So it would go from Peter Durant to Paul Frost, if memory serves.
If they move to precinct 4, that is Paul Frost.
30 on the 30th.
Yes, on the 31st. Yeah. So some of those folks don't. Select person, of course, is absolutely correct. When it comes to town elections, you just go to a different line. Hypothetically, depending upon redistricting, which we can talk more about probably at the next meeting, because changes are in process, if you will. Basically, what that would mean is that if nothing changes in the House, your reps will, instead of being Representative Durant, it'll be Representative Frost. So again, I think a lot depends upon the final redistricting. But again, to Vice Chair's Ridlack point, we don't have much of a choice.
No, but eventually maybe we can get a message to Boston that we would like Charleston to be whole again
Yes.
and have one state rep for everyone.
You get no argument from me.
No, you're right, I agree.
So I think we had a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. And again, hope the people enjoy Precinct 4. The Winter Wash Sand Bid Award.
Winter Wash sand bids were opened and read on October 7th, 2021 at 10 a.m. 2 bids were received from Pilker Construction Inc. and Mass Broken Stone Company. After review of the bids, DPW Superintendent Foskett is recommending the board award the bid to Massachusetts Broken Stone Company of Berlin, Mass. in the amount of $18.25 per ton. Last year's award was to Pilker Construction Inc. in the amount of $17.95 per ton. I recommend the board award the bid as requested.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer.
just for the public's knowledge, do we know what the other bid was?
I believe it was just over $19 per ton.
Thank you.
Yeah, do we have an idea what's that total cost? If you don't have it.
It's all dependent.
Yeah, it
It's all
can vary,
dependent on how
yeah.
much you're actually requesting per year. How bad.
We can probably get that for the next meeting, though. Just think, like,
I can get what's around for it. I was just curious, probably 200,000.
would hope. Actually, you know what? Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say I think it would be a little bit less, but you know. But again, you know, it really depends upon how bad of a storm you have, or storms plural.
And your salt to sand ratio.
Exactly. All right. Now you're just showing up.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? All right. Sorry. Did we have a motion? David, did you make a motion? I can't remember.
I'll make a motion.
So we had Steve.
Second.
Thanks, Vice Chair Ridlack. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Looking forward to some excellent sand. Next up, always some nice news when we locate new businesses in town. We're doing our request for the Common Vic coffee and food for Bellies.
Attached is a request from GLL Inc. DBA Bellies for a common victual license for coffee and food to be used at 109 Masonic Road, Unit 2. The hours of operation are Sunday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. They've completed the proper paperwork needed, and I recommend that the board approve the request.
Questions from the board?
Make a motion that we approve the request.
The motion by Vice Chair Ridlack. Let a second. Second from David. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Looking forward to going down and trying some breakfast. All right, under old business, we're doing our special town meeting. We are officially approving and signing the warrant this evening. Andrew, anything you want to add?
Nope, just note that the warrant is before you as you guys reviewed last week, so just need a formal vote to sign.
I make a motion that we approve the final warrant for the town meeting.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We'd like to have a second.
A little bit of discussion on that. I think on the last meeting, we didn't understand what number 12 was and we skipped over it.
The planning board had yet to hold a public hearing on that, so that it wasn't right for a motion, or they hadn't given any sort of recommendation. We had scheduled for tomorrow's meeting, so once the planning board makes some motion, perhaps at the next meeting before town meeting, you might want to take a secondary action on it.
It's also sponsored by the property owner, so we don't have to,
Yeah. So for those at home, there's Article 12, which is basically rezoning a residential area or agricultural to, I believe, BEP, and it's going to be go in front of the planning board. At the joint meeting with FinCon, the Board of Selectmen decided to wait until we heard the information and the recommendation from the planning board. So Select Person Crone is correct. We didn't take action on it. However, we can even do that prior to the town meeting when we meet beforehand as well. So tonight, really, this motion is just around saying, are we going to approve it and then close it and submit it forward? So again, I believe it a motion from Vice Chair Ridlack. Steve, was that a second officially? At least for discussion?
Yeah, I guess. But we're including that number 12.
Correct. Yes. Okay. All right. So motion, we have a second. Any further discussion, assuming that we will reassess whether or not we want to support or not support it at town meeting or take no action whatsoever?
Actually, on that point, I'm thinking about it. I probably need to recuse myself as being in a butter.
You probably don't need to close the warrant, but when it comes to the support, if you are in the butter, my personal recommendation, and this is true for really everyone on this board and really any board, if you ever have a question around whether you should recuse yourself or not, you basically should. Always err on the side of caution. But again, very very good point.
Can we make another, and someone else can second the motion, and I'll abstain.
I got a motion from Vice Chair Ridlack. I have a second from Select Person Singer. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed?
Abstain.
Steve abstained. So we at 401. The special town meeting warrant is officially approved, and we will sign that at our convenience. Next up is a procedural issue regarding the tax increment financing we'll be discussing, also known as Article 11, at our special town meeting. Andrew?
All right, so enclosed you'll find the proposed tax increment financing agreement and application submission to the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council for the proposed project at 53 Sturbridge Road. In order for Amazon to proceed with submitting their application to the EACC prior to their November 3rd deadline, the Board of Selectmen should vote to approve the TIP and to authorize the application to be submitted. So, what are the wishes of the board?
And just so everyone at home in the audience knows, this is not an end around of town meeting whatsoever. This is literally a bureaucratic issue that things have to be submitted to the state. If town meeting votes this down, it doesn't, it goes away. This is just simply allowing Amazon to apply to the state, because the way a TIF process works is that you need town meeting approval, then you also need the state to sign off on it. And there's a certain lead time that's required for certain deadlines. So don't anyone think that a town meeting vote doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. In fact, it's really the one thing that does matter. So I just wanted to clarify that. But again, what are the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair, just for clarification as
Please.
well, this is not an approval of Amazon. This is simply their financial portion.
Absolutely. Correct. Thank you, Select Person Singer.
I make a motion to approve the agreement for the tax financing agreement with Amazon.
First, you're like killing it on the motions there. Second,
When you look at me.
I have a second Select Person Singer. Again, for any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you much. Old business. We held this from our discussion with FinCom. So, you know what, Andrew, I'm just going to let you
Yeah, no problem.
introduce it.
Yeah, so as you guys know, the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, basically gave the town of Charlton up to almost $4.1 million in total funds that need to be apportioned and used over the next basically 3-year period. We're going to get this in 2 tranches. So we're trying to kind of make a plan as to how the town would plan to use that in the approved method. So I had just basically put together, I had solicited requests from department heads as far as things that they thought were priorities that may fit in line with the uses of these funds, and kind of put it into a schedule for review of the board. It doesn't obligate all of the funds that the draft plan, but kind of like to get it to you guys for comment, question, and kind of how you guys wanted to proceed with the approval process, because there's really no dictated approval of this. The town can move forward and spend it however it wishes. Let's say that it has to go to town meeting or anything like that. So I kind of wanted to move forward in a way that the board felt comfortable on expenses that the board would support. So the draft plans and closing, answer any questions you guys might have on it.
Those in the packet, those are on pages 62 and following. And you know what, to make it easier for the folks at home too, why don't we just go down line up by line up and literally just give a 10-second elevator speech and then we can discuss how we want to proceed.
Yep. So the first one was sewer operation, replacement and engineering costs of sewer infrastructure. And Pete's here that might be able to talk a little bit more on it if you need some more information. But there were kind of 3 projects you're really looking at. It was headworks, replacement, the equalizer tank improvements, and you don't have the last one on here, and improvements in the chemical room. The first step on that was an $85,000 engineering study to figure out what the true priority was. So we kind of put a budgetary number of $585,000 to start. The $85,000 being the engineering, $500,000 toward the total improvements. So that was that line item. So I don't know if you want to just give any additional information.
Sure, just real quick. First of all, thank you for considering the water and sewer for usage of these funds. It will be a great help. So the $85,000 will do us, more than a paper study. They'll review those 3 areas of the treatment plant, the headworks building, which is original to the treatment plant that was built over 30 years ago, and the equalization tanks to see what we can do for improvements to get more effective treatment in that area to help us treat the waste that's coming in. And the smaller project would be the chemical storage room and bringing, not that it's out of compliance, but making it maybe more compliant. So the engineering study will look at those 3 areas and then create some improvements to be made and then come up with a true cost proposal of what those improvements would be. And then we can prioritize them from there and see what's available for funds and see how it lays out with the funding that's available. So
then, Boris, it's always good to see you and thank you for this. This sounds like the type of thing, from what I've been reading about it, that sooner or later we're going to have to do this.
yes.
And it would seem to me, to the rest of the board, that knowing we have this grant or whatever we want to call it from the government, that this would be a nice opportunity to use this money and not put the burden on the taxpayers. But again, I'm one of 5. What I probably recommend is we go through all of these, and then we just kind of say, look, are there any that we just reject outright, or even as we go one at a time, if there's something that somebody feels very strongly about, just obviously get your opinion and we take votes on it later. But any question for the superintendent board?
I do have a question actually. If it answered more to Andrew. So if these funds, you have to spend them within 3 years?
Yes, I believe it's by the end of 2024, the funds at least have to be obligated. By the end of
Right.
2026,
So you don't have-
they have to be expended.
You don't have to be completed by that. That's just
Probably not, probably just allocated.
Yeah.
That's an important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I believe, again, we have a proposal from Veolia, who's our treatment plant operator, and Wright Pierce, who's the engineer that they're working with, to start that proposal, to start the engineering work immediately. So if the board would be inclined to approve at least $85,000 to start working on that portion of it, we are ready to go and hit the ground running. So
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
So
Singer.
basically what we have in front of us, unless you want to remove things and change numbers, is a plan for the entire amount. which includes the water sewer.
Is it the entire amount or is it most of the amount?
It's less 1.2 million.
Yeah.
So
So
1.2 million
yeah,
of
I
it
was
has
doing the
not
math,
been
yeah.
obligated
Yeah.
at all.
so we still.
I didn't pull out my calculator.
I was always listening to the banker.
People
Whatever.
Right, but for all intents and purposes, we have a budget,
Yeah.
which includes water sewer.
Correct.
So-
With a obligatory slush fund that we find other projects for as they come due in the next year and a half or so, in case we get surprised. But again, just speaking for myself, I think this is one of those check the box ones that
Oh,
that'd be a good idea to do.
Yeah, the only question I have is not water sewer. So
All right. Thanks.
Thank you
gentlemen.
all.
Good seeing you.
thanks.
All right. Next up are the radio system upgrades. I know this is always one of our fun ones.
Yeah, and that's one of those ones that we kind of keep, or we've been plugging along with. We'd like to try to obligate at least $800,000 toward that, and avoid having to go back to town meeting for any further approvals. So, that's kind of our, really high on the list. It kind of checks all those boxes. Police body worn.
Actually, sorry, Andrew, something. Just as a reminder again for those in the audience, those at home, we allocated $250 last year at town meeting to that. Knowing it was a multi-generational plan. So again, this is one of those capital investments that will allow us to take the tax burden off of town meeting voters, knowing that again we have to replace those for safety reasons. So this would be a nice opportunity to use the money.
And we're very confident that all of these items on here fit the guidelines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Next up.
The next item was police body worn cameras. This was another item that kind of the police have been looking at for a few years. So there's some grants that are starting to come out on this. Especially with the implementation of posts, they've seen that a lot of unsolicited complaints against the police have really dropped on this. It's been more of a protective issue that have helped police officers, that have been more of a deterrent. So we think that $200,000 toward at least starting a program up would be a good starting point for that, and then maybe perhaps investing more as we go forward.
It's a great investment and it reduces liability for the town.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer.
that was my only concern was that one. So the body worn cameras, I assume if we don't do that, we can just reallocate those funds. And I'm only saying that because I would ask that Andrew look into whether or not that would require bargaining with the union. Because I don't think we can just arbitrarily say you're wearing cameras. I think we have to actually negotiate.
I know we've been talking about developing a policy between the two parties. So they seem to be very receptive to it. At least I know I've sat in on a demo that was done with the entire department. They all seem to think it was a worthwhile investment, at least the solution that was presented. So not to speak on their behalf, but it seemed to be.
No, but
Yeah.
that's like Singer, you're right though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that we need to
Yeah.
keep in mind. Good call. All right. Next up is from fire.
Yeah. So Fire is interested in starting a community paramedicine program. Essentially, this type of program would deliver pre-hospital care, almost like a urgent care type program. And it's kind of been piloted in a few different towns in Massachusetts, and I know the fire department's been looking into this for a few years, so we've always look to see if into it further to see if it's feasible for here and if it would be supported.
Comments from the board first.
just a little, I'm just curious about those details, but I don't think we need to discuss that. Which I think
No, and
is,
I'll have Chief Knopf come in here and give the full elevator speech on it. But it's basically kind of like more of a non-emergency response type care. It's urgent care type.
Someone needs stitches.
But that does potentially, it sounds like it's going to be more equipment, more vehicles, more.
Right,
staff.
and that's, I think a lot of it is going to be more front loaded, as far as the equipment needed to start the program. So that's why it's kind of a higher.
Personally, my only concern on this and ones that would be similar to is that I'd like to use this money for real capital investments, one-time expenditures like we do with free cash. My concern, for lack of a better word, is that this may require additional operating funds on a go forward. And I'm not saying that it's a bad program, but I think that's something that we need to talk around with the chief to figure out what that eventual estimate may be and whether we go down this path. Again, I have no issues with this
Is
now.
there revenue involved?
Yeah, exactly. So suddenly I just want to look at that return on investment to make sure that the expenses on an ongoing are not going to be prohibitive with all the other things we have going on. But conceptually, I think it's a great idea. But again, my personal preference for these are normally around one-timers. but we can talk to the chief more and get the details. So definitely not a veto, just probably more questions.
Yep.
Next up, Board of Health.
Yep. So $200,000 toward continuing kind of the ongoing COVID-19 mitigation efforts. You know, it's not completely gone away. There's still some obligations. And FEMA has picked up a lot of the costs involved, but the CARES Act is sunsetting at the end of October for municipalities. So we'll be looking at, just in the case that there are expenses relative to mitigation that aren't covered by FEMA, we at least have some pool money to go to that doesn't impact our operational budget.
Yeah, I got no issue. Thoughts from the board? Any opposition or things that you want brought up when we discuss it more?
Other than the fact that I agree with I'd rather have capital investment versus kind of operational.
Yeah.
But
This is going to be an ongoing issue.
Right, exactly,
We'll look at it
yeah.
all the time.
There's one on this list, so it's not capital. It would be recurring beyond the scope of this money.
Next up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the next
Council.
one was doing a feasibility study related to the Council on Aging. So, you know, it's no secret here that we're talking about kind of our space needs and everybody fitting into one building, and some potential for other outside buildings that could be used as future homes to the Council on Aging. I'd like to try to take that money to do some sort of feasibility to see if it is, what the cost would be to move the senior center out. What could be repurposed in that area? Is there other buildings that we haven't considered yet for a senior center to be done to try to improve those facilities and make it more of a COVID-friendly, COVID-resistant friendly environment that could be, is not just shoved in the basement of town.
Thoughts on the board?
I think this has been a problem for a long time, even before COVID. So maybe, again, I always claim to spend money on studies, but I think that they come up with a solution.
At least give us a starting point as to what direction.
So that's the part of what you said before, potentially moving the senior center to Masonic Home facilities?
They could, yes,
Possibly.
that's one facility that we'll evaluate to see if there's sufficient space, if the area could be renovated, or if it's just not feasible whatsoever. We need to look at new construction.
I think this would allow us at least the proactive approach of taking a long-term plan view or a long-term vision view of, are we going to update the senior center downstairs, or are we going to go somewhere else so that our senior residents can have a nice place to be? So I think, for me, again, I'm embarrassed to say this out loud, but it's relatively short money in the grand scheme of things at $50,000. So I think to me, it's probably a good spend.
The possibilities of eventually we are going to need a fire station or a public safety or something, and a lot of things will be moved around. So that fund to making that part of the whole cost too.
Next up, IT, because Jeff always wants more money.
So just a blanket $250,000 that we can kind of space out over time, whatever technology upgrades that we need to kind of continue programs such as Zoom, upgrades to this room. It's just cybersecurity that seems to be the biggest thing these days, is making sure that your stuff doesn't get hacked. So I'd like to make a good push toward our cyber resiliency.
Any concerns, thoughts on the boards? Good.
No.
Next up.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to
So I
talk
figured
about.
that this one was probably going to be the one. You got to throw at least one lead balloon in there. But to the proposal to start an economic development coordinator program, the thought with this position was that they'd be specifically targeted at kind of grant writing and being in a single point of contact for some of these larger projects that are coming in over the next few years. It being a compressed timeline, it would give us an opportunity to at least evaluate if any benefit to the town. But at least figured that this may be a program to evaluate, considering just some of the evolving economic factors in town.
Let's start with Select Person Singer, as he's ready to jump out of his chair.
Well, no,
I'm second jumping out of my chair.
no problem.
I'm staying in my chair. You guys are my best one.
I'm actually not. It's just the reality is this is not capital. So this is going to be if this happens, right? This is going to be recurring well beyond the term of these monies, and the town's going to have to pay unless you decide 4 years later goodbye and this one out of work. However, at the same time, it's not being funded by taxpayers in the beginning. It is being funded by the monies from this grant, right? And I assume, the assumption, that by the time we get to that point, actual new net revenues for the town would then actually be enabling the town to continue to fund the position without coming back to the taxpayers saying, hey, we need more money to pay for this person because of the revenues we're now receiving from the new operations in town. So that's just one part of it. The other half of that is, that said, we've had the conversation around, is there a need? Right now, there isn't. Now, I'm not saying we won't, and I agree with Andrew, we're going to, but if that need is 2, 3, 4 years down the road, these are monies that could perhaps go to help, again, bolster water sewer efforts or other areas of town. Maybe we don't look at a 4-year plan for this at $75,000 a year. Granted, it's not taxpayer money, but if we did say, all right, Andrew, let's look at the last 2 years of this, right? This build out's going to take time. Maybe we take that $300K and make it $150, make the other $150 available to the cushion or other areas, and still leave $150 to have Andrew bring in that person. But 2 years into the project, because this is going to take time, and we don't want to pay someone $75,000 a year for 4 years if they're twiddling their thumbs for the first 12 or 24 months.
Thank you. Vice Chair Rivera.
So I'm always against, just because we're getting the money for free doesn't mean we need to kind of frivolously spend it for, for things that we want versus things that we need. We have a boatload of educated, experienced individuals in this building already who somehow managed to bring in Amazon, another 1 million square foot distribution center, LNG, a bunch of new inquiries that are happening all over 20 and everything else without spending the money on in that kind of investment. It's not like it's, all of everything that we do is really on 20. It's not like we need somebody to go out and advertise more or anything. We have a capable EDC that has a small budget. Why would we want to spend this when we have so many other projects, especially, our like scanning in documents that we pay, that waste space. We have so many other projects that we could spend this kind of money on that will add more long-term value. And again, that's my opinion.
Basha, Steve, anything?
No, but that position specifically, that's not for getting out there and soliciting any type of the businesses. This is just for the existing projects to coordinate the grants and stuff.
It could be honestly whatever we make the charge for it to be.
So basically, an EDC director, just opinion, but if they're doing their job properly, especially if you're paying them $75,000 a year, shouldn't be just applying for grants. They should be attending all the chamber trade shows, all the chamber events, networking, and actually at these events interacting with businesses to bring their trowels. So they should be doing a lot more than just, existing projects, especially for that kind of money. So basically, what she's saying is, Steve, sorry, is not going to pay you the $75,000 to be the chairperson.
Honestly, he or she would be trying to poach businesses from other areas to say, hey, come to Charlton, low tax rate, smart people, good location.
But we already know that. People already know it. Obviously, we have so much growth coming in. Just things, again, and we already have a town administrator who knows how to administrate grants, great finance people, great planning board of health. Like, we have teams that know how to coordinate. We've been doing it for years. But again, this is my opinion.
Dasha, further comments?
No. I like the idea. I'm not sure about $300,000, and I like what David said, that right now I don't see the need, but 2 years into it, maybe there'll be a different conversation.
Steve,
I agree with what David said. I don't know if it was more towards marketing, videos, brochures, things like that, or trade show booths, something like that. I don't know if we could. That would make more sense. Filling a position right now, it's a little premature.
How about this? How about we ask Andrew to create an alternate proposal, maybe a skinny down version, and see what we can come up with at our next meeting, and then we'll give formal direction to either kill it or say proceed with as is, or proceed with, hey, go down this path instead. Fair enough?
Yeah, if this is more than just what is described here. This is somebody who's going after specific businesses that we as a town want to entertain, then I can see that being formatted into some kind of a goal-oriented atmosphere, you know. So we're spending 300,000, but say that person has a goal of, you know, I don't know, 7 million in tax revenue. So that's a harder thing. So, but that will be up to you to, you know, kind of get it together and present it in a manner that,
So more like a contract for position.
yeah.
Yeah, you want, if I may,
Please do.
to Bosch's point, you want the return on the investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the town of Westboro, right, like Patsy pointed out, people know it. Well, they know Westboro's there too, but they actually have an EDC director and an assistant who are literally on the road, going out to other towns, aggressively trying to poach businesses to come to Westboro. That's what I see this person doing for Charlton. Also, like we said, but down the road. So maybe if the point Andrew comes up with an alternate solution that might make everyone happy, where we're not going to spend that much money, we're also going to put it off to we are closer to the point of actually needing it. Maybe we can get a consensus.
It'll make more sense, you know, as these projects come online, we get those revenues in to make it part of the operational budget versus using these.
Right. To be more picky of who we want in this town too. And I know, like Bill said at the other meeting with the other boards, that we don't really need to put ourselves on a map for those people. I disagree with that. That's my opinion. It's not about the ones that can see us. It's about what we know that other people don't know yet. So, for example, like Amazon coming in, we know that's going to create so many thousands employees. So we can think outside of the box. Okay, we're going to eventually need some food store, maybe some restaurant, maybe, I don't know, a hotel. So those are the businesses or type of the businesses that not necessarily are looking at our town right at this moment because of the, you know, logistics and why not. So I like the idea.
So you
I
don't
just
think
would like
that,
to be more
like,
precise.
so restaurants aren't paying attention, going, wow, there's going to be, you know, 2,000 new people that are going to go into
Yeah.
Charlton every day. You think we need to pay somebody for that to tell them to come here, or they're successful businesses already and they watch these things and they have full-time people that are actually saying, hey, look at all the new traffic in Charlton. Maybe we need X, Y, and Z. It just seems, again, I always question headcount and why we want to add salaries onto the budget when it kind of works for itself. Yes, we have an EDC, a whole EDC that meets, that they can have it. They could have a form letter that's being sent out and pay somebody. I know you guys didn't want the planning board director, but you know, you could maybe do it with a small stipend versus a whole salary and all the benefits and kind of
The motivation. It's the motivation is there, financial or why not statement.
I mean, I guess if you bring in
This
a
works a little
contractor and
better.
you say, if you bring in $1 million, we'll give you 100,000. You know, if you have like, you know,
I go. Set simple.
then that's fine. But I would like to see the revenue first before we start spending money.
What I'd say is we're probably not going to solve it tonight. So why don't we, if it's okay, just charge Andrew with coming up with a proposal.
I have one other quick point though.
Yeah,
that
go ahead,
Andrew
Steve.
can take with him. I'm not if I'm reading, unless it's broader than this, if I'm reading the guidelines on where we can spend that money, that grant money, I'm not necessarily convinced that falls into it. A lot of the broadband, a lot of the other things do, but I don't see where that would fall into.
Well, it's on a response to negative economic consequences due to COVID.
Yeah, so you're essentially tasking somebody that's going to go out and identify, you know, the areas that could be invested in. That's what.
If we lost business and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, somebody who's dedicated toward, hey, you had negative impacts to COVID. I represent the town. I know where to get the resources for.
So Andrew, bring us back something in November. So
Yep.
that happens.
Yep.
No problem.
Next up, which is something that should have been done 10 years ago, but we'll talk about it tonight. Go ahead, Andrew.
So just throwing $150,000 toward connecting the water infrastructure up to the police department.
For some reason, it wasn't done, and I think we should do it now. So
Mr. Chair, I agree, especially since the previous police chief actually requested the connection was denied. Now we need it. Now we gotta pay more. This is the best opportunity to do it without.
yeah, Peter's gonna take care of it for us.
Taxpayers.
Peter's gonna take us a whole.
Well, this
The
is,
850,000.
Yeah, think about it. You'll be great. You make great shape with it.
There's more money for water sewer.
Exactly.
But
yeah, it's
it's a
like
chance to do it without
Yeah.
the taxpayers having to fund it.
exactly.
No, it's needed.
Okay.
That's just about it. I just threw a few other things in here that I know have kind of just come up in conversation. Is just that the wastewater treatment plant. It's probably not just going to be 500,000. There might be more that we want to put toward that, depending on what the results of that engineering study is. Whether or not there was any flavor to use that money toward design development of the fire station only building.
And let me say that is a wonderful proposal.
Yeah.
I will be the first one so that I take the heat on this. I for one am one of five are absolutely rejecting that right now. I'm very happy to have a discussion around a new public safety building and or a new fire department once we start getting revenue in and we can pay for it either from our operating budget and or a small debt exclusion. Until those projects start happening, again, one of five, I don't want to feel that I don't want to have residents think that we're throwing another fire department down
And I
their
don't
throats.
think we're doing it where, the revenue will be soon enough. There are people, they want to build these things as soon as possible. So I don't think we wait in 10 more years. So
With that being said, we need a new fire department, people. Let's just be clear about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But sorry, and again, that's just me, Andrew. I'm just trying to give
I
direction.
just want to
Are
make sure
there-
that it was
Are
put on
there
paper. so that way-
potential improvements with the fire department and the police department that could be fit into this without?
So I did include municipal building renovations because once we do that study, it may turn up some very short dollar things that we could use this money for. So I want to put that on there. And then revenue replacement is a option for the use of this money, but we have our auditor looking at that. I don't think that we have a very good position to use that money. So,
And as was mentioned in our joint meeting with FinCom, we're going to be getting some additional information about the existing Station 2 and our Quonset hut, which are both in disrepair. So that might be something else, but you're to your point, that we may want to reallocate towards that.
And that we'll have to do.
Just to
no
confirm.
matter what.
Exactly. So it sounds like Andrew, come back in a few weeks and we'll see how we're doing.
is there any other approval process moving forward that the board wants to see, or are you guys comfortable with whatever we come up with the final budget being the final one, Mr. Chair?
Thoughts on the board, David?
While Pete's here,
Mhm.
is there anything else water sewer might need regarding water?
Thoughts on the board around an approval process? I have my own, but I'll go last.
I'd want to see the final,
Yes.
list. And I don't think we all need to sit here pulling things out individually. It's crazy, but we should kind of approve a final since.
Send your wish lists in to Andrew.
Yes.
Anything else, comments on the board?
I agree with Betsy.
The only thing I would throw out there for discussion of the board is that knowing it is ultimately taxpayer money, I would recommend that we publish a public hearing notice and we actually have a formal public hearing on it to let the residents come in, have a discussion, and at least get their feedback as well. But again, I defer to the board.
As long as we're clear, I don't like to create the impression, that people have the ability to actually vote to spend money a certain way outside of town meeting.
Mhm.
So as long as I understand that it's for involvement, suggestions, or recommendations, just being clear.
Sometimes people say things that absolutely make you change your mind.
Correct.
Their specialties are,
Mhm.
they may do whatever for a living, and we only just know did their research, something that we don't know. So sometimes it's
Yep.
pretty good to have their comments.
No.
Maybe we'll post it. Something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, ultimately, as the executive team, I think it's our decision, but I would just recommend, and I hate using the word transparency, that we publish something formally and say, look, come if you have questions or suggestions, talk about it because you might influence us, but this is what we're going to do. But ultimately, it's our vote versus that at town meeting. But again, how do people feel about that?
No, I agree.
I'm happy that that's
Absolutely.
perfect.
One more comment, maybe it's just a question. If does this have a look back period?
You can only go back to this last March when ARPA was first enacted. Can't go any further back into
Because last week's meeting with FinCom, we appropriated several $100,000 to the police station, fire station for repairs.
Mhm.
Out of free cash. Could we recoup that money from this?
look at the applicability of the repairs.
No, Steve, that's a good call.
and then put that money back in the future.
Possibly. Yeah, Andrew, can you take a look at that? Yeah. Because we can always amend the warrant at town meeting to figure that out. So, which I would imagine we could either put it to a stabilization or the new stabilization fund if town meeting creates it. So again, something to think about. So no, Steve, that's actually a good call. So Andrew, yeah, see what you can figure out now.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on ARPA? By the way, anyone from the audience? I know this is all dreadfully exciting. Next up, we don't have any BOS committee reports nor policies. TA goals, objectives we're talking through. Izzy, we're going to get to you and our Shepherd Hill person soon enough regarding students select persons or select people. TA report. Anything, Andrew?
Let's see. License renewals have gone out. You'll be asked to activate those on your December meeting. As we had discussed at the last special meeting, we'll be having a pre-town meeting information session the Monday prior to town meeting. We're holding that via Zoom, and that'll be hosted by town moderator Noreen Smith. And just to keep the board and the public apprised, the Energy Facilities Siting Board did issue a final decision on the NEC LNG project that we're meeting last Thursday. So we've created dedicated project pages on the town website for a lot of these big projects, the LNG project, the two projects on Sturbridge Road, basically just trying to get as much information as we have available to us for the public to take a look at. So feel free to go to the town website, check those out.
Thanks, Andrew. I have actually two quick things related to that. One is so everyone knows, the NEC did, in fact, or the FSB did actually approve that 169 site. So unfortunately, it is what it is. And second of all, kind of this ties into the website, as I believe it was Select Person Zorowski's one of the goals for Andrew around the website, that Andrew's and team have been making a bunch of updates, and I think it's a lot more user-friendly. We're going to continue to make more, but please provide feedback so that we know what people want. But it is actually getting much better. So Andrew, kudos to that.
Yes,
By the way, I love the new TA reports that you're posting out
yeah.
on the Town of Charlton Facebook page. If you haven't check it out yet, please do. It's a very nice synopsis of really everything that you need to know about what's going on in town. So Andrew, very nice job on that. All right. Any other questions for Andrew around the TA report? All right. How about other business unknown and posting? Anything you know?
Mr. Chair, the only comment I would make would be regarding TA goals.
Mhm.
Under the
You always make me nervous when you take out a piece of paper.
under the look at lowering fees by the BOS, the status says recommend that current fee structure not be lowered as current structure is equivalent, if not lower than comparable communities. For further consideration, please identify particular fees board would like to see reduced and by how much. So my comment just to that is that my request was that Andrew actually compiled a list of fees that this board controls to give to the board members so that we could go through those. And as far as other towns, and they've heard me say this a million times, frankly, my dear, I don't give it in, right? I don't care what other towns charge or don't charge. Most of them are poorly managed to begin with. So just because another town charges something, I don't think that Charlton has to be in line. If there are opportunities for us to lower some of our fees, regardless of what other towns may or may not do, I think we should look into it.
All right, let's shoot for one of our two, or preferably the first November meeting, to talk around the fees. So we'll get a listing of everything that the Board of Selectmen is responsible for, and we can literally go one by one, or you like, or people can just speak through to say yes, no, etc. And so that work for you?
Yeah, and I appreciate it. It doesn't have to even be that complex. If Andrew wants to get it to us, we can look at it in our own and then just reply what to put on that list that we might be interested in looking at. And it's the list already consolidated at that point, so we can come together and be even faster to go through.
Yeah, whatever works, but no, that's fair.
I know you said that it doesn't matter what other towns charge, but can we have sort of a summary of like our surrounding towns, because their incomes are about the same as like Sturbridge is pretty.
I'll
Because
try to find like 5 or 6.
Because I mean, I'd like to save everybody money, but a lot of outside people pull permits, like contractors that don't live in town. So I get giving our residents sort of a deal, but I want to make sure that we're not kind of giving everything away. Fair,
So maybe, like I said, maybe 3 or 4 surrounding towns. Does that work for everyone?
Just
So,
to
so
compare.
it's not too onerous, but at the same time, we got something. Again, I know sometimes it's hard to find, but just
No,
touch on it.
that's fine. But Patsy's just gonna put me on the spot to have to publicly call out which towns are poorly managed. So that's fine.
I'm not saying a word.
We're gonna refrain from.
Honestly, I'm staying quiet.
I love all of our selectmen and all of our neighboring towns. Just want to be on the record for that. Just
Andrew, do we have any type of a
Pass
few
is the big
waivers
builder.
altogether on those fees, say for the hardship from businesses recovering from COVID or any other, I'm just making stuff up.
As far as waivers to permit fees, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the tax abatements for seniors and stuff like that, but
It's our work off program.
yeah, work on programs like that, more targeted toward taxing, but not toward permit fees.
I would actually think reducing permit fees for the senior citizens I'd be happy with that. Us young ones.
That's a really good point.
I'm just going to caution everyone. It's not on the agenda. I'd rather people wait until
Good
the
call.
next
David,
meeting.
But if I could, I hate to use the word circle back because it makes my head hurt. But the when you mentioned the senior work payoff, could that be part of that grant money that
Our-
I don't think you can expend that on private citizens, basically, which is what you would be doing.
It'd be a specific
But
tax
there
break.
was a clause in there that
Does
said
that fit?
something about. Well, it's just a thought. Something
You know what? Yeah, we can talk about it next
maybe
time.
we could increase that program.
Well,
off of that.
You know what? It's probably worth talking about.
People are going to hit a hard
Yeah.
heating season.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much funded through the overlay process right now. Where
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of the overlay that's raised that's anticipated that people have to do the tax work off. So it's, I mean, really, that's an account. I think we could probably handle it with our current overlay to bring on as many people as we needed for seniors that are looking for work.
And there's always somebody in the senior center. We do the Rice Foundation for the heating and cooling. The applications are viable to everybody, and Mary down there, it's always there helping. And there we have funds. We have decent standing on that.
Actually, you know what? Maybe we have an update. Actually, maybe we invite in someone from the senior center in the next couple of months.
Or the Rice
Like,
and the Rice Foundation.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's a good idea.
Bring like Elaine or someone like that. Just say, hey, what else is out there? Whether it be the circuit breaker program for tax relief and like everything else. So Andrew, just kind of remind me of that at some point.
One more
Yeah.
note, I think. I
Yep.
have on November 21st. I was asked to go to with Scouts, the Webelos, to go and talk about what we do here.
Are you gonna lie?
If anybody is interested in going, it's the 21st of November.
Thank you
So
for that.
everybody has it's Sunday, but that's when they meet.
Thank you. There's also an email I sent around. I hope it hasn't passed around. I know there was an Eagle Scout issue with, or request, so take a look at that at some point. All right, next meeting announcement. Our regular meeting is November 9th at 6:30. We're going to be here. A couple of the quick things. Again, we have a special meeting prior to town meeting, November 15th at 6 p.m. at Charlton Middle School. Not that I'm trying to think too far in the future, but Andrew, we can do any appointments and or regular business at that meeting, so we can cancel our second meeting in November. That's great. If not, don't worry about it. But again, special town meeting, November 15th, 7 p.m. Charlton Middle School. We've sent out that postcard. We're going to do the reverse 911. I'm sure I'll be standing on the common looking like a fool at some point between now and then. We're going to have signage. So please go. It's literally a town defining moment. So we do not have any exec session tonight, but I see a couple people in the audience. And if you have any questions, anything that we can help with. You guys good? Cool. Jeff, nice job with computers. Thank you. Drew, thank you. And again, Izzy, great to have you. Very excited. Looking forward to
Great students like
to a great year
Briefest one
with you. And again, first Bay Path rep ever, so we're very excited. So, but hearing nothing else, I would happily entertain a motion to adjourn. I got a motion. Second. I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Andrew, would you be so kind?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Jeff.